Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Tom Sherry.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Tim Pham. Let's get right to our top story right now at 6. President Trump is tweeting about the Spokane tribe of Indians. He said in a tweet he recently signed 3 bills to support tribal sovereignty and Native culture. One of those is Senate Bill 216, which compensates the Spokane tribe for land loss due to the Cooley Dam construction.
The Spokane tribe said in a statement last week that the legislation provides equitable compensation for lands taken by the U.S. as part of dam construction in the 1930s and 40s. The tribe says their land has been used for storage, flood control, and power generation without restitution. The Seattle Times reports the tribe will receive $6 million a year for the next 10 years, then $8 million a year after those 10 years.
Switching gears, a woman in Idaho was arrested after the Idaho Humane Society discovered 58 dogs living in one 700 square foot home. Humane Society staff said the animals were living in, quote, deplorable conditions.
Firefighters had to suit up and wear oxygen masks to clear out the home before they could allow staff from the Humane Society inside. Staff haven't released the conditions of all the animals, but they did say one is going in for emergency surgery tomorrow.
Hope they're okay. Well, the search for an Oregon woman is continuing 4 days after she disappeared. 20-year-old Allison Watterson and her boyfriend were visiting a friend when their car broke down and they got separated. That's according to Watterson's mother.
Yeah, Watterson and her boyfriend were not hiking like the Washington County Sheriff's Office previously thought. The search was refocused after interesting items and clues were found by searchers on Thursday. Now, according to the sheriff, he would not specify what those items were. We'll continue to follow this story as it unfolds.
A new suspect was questioned in the murder of college student Tessa Majors. The suspect is 14 years old. He was met by his lawyer at the police station and chose not to answer any questions.
A 13-year-old was previously taken into custody related to the murder. The teen said he was there when Majors was killed. He said he and the 14-year-old attempted to rob Majors when other teens stabbed her. Law enforcement are being careful with this case for fear of wrongfully accusing anyone.
Nurses at Swedish Medical Center in Seattle say they will strike if an agreement isn't reached. The hospital is owned by Providence Healthcare. The next negotiation will happen on December 30th.
If the strike goes forward, union workers at Swedish would be part of more than 13,000 strikers across the state. That number also includes workers at Sacred Heart in Spokane, who are also in negotiations with Providence.
Well, check this out. A man was taken into custody earlier today after allegedly stealing an ambulance from an active scene and taking it for a joyride. While crews were working on a patient, a family member actually left the home and then took the ambulance. Police deployed spike strips, which the ambulance hit and flattening all 6 of the tires.
Yeah,
Wow.
A group of teenagers right there captured the video of that ambulance going past them and then coming to a stop on the side of I-5. The suspect ended up driving partially onto train tracks before he was apprehended by multiple officers. The suspect's name wasn't released and the charges he faces are still unclear.
Wow. Washington drivers must now always use their turn signal when turning or changing lanes. The Washington State Supreme Court made this ruling yesterday.
It reverses a previous appeal that was only required when public safety is affected. Now, it may seem like common knowledge, but really, in recent years, there has not been a clear answer on when drivers must use their signals.
Yeah, so you ought to make sure you signal now. Well, Tom, I heard a rumor that there could be snow. Can you confirm?
I'm going to confirm we're going to get a little bit of light snow late Saturday night into early Sunday morning, most likely while we're all sleeping. Let's take a look now at the current temperature, 28 degrees, not much in the wind department. I will tell you this, these side roads off the main arterials are very slippery right now, and we're going to get some patchy freezing fog in the overnight hours as well. Doppler radar, as you can see, is looking very quiet, but again, that will be different late Saturday night into Sunday morning. We'll look for a high of 34 on Saturday, 36 expected on Sunday. We'll check your 10-day forecast coming up in just about 15 minutes.
Looking forward to it, Tom. Thank you. Well, it's Cheez-It Bowl game day. The Cougs kick off against Air Force tonight.
Brenna Green now joins us from Phoenix to give us some more info about this Pac-12 versus Mountain West matchup. Brenna?
Tim, Tom. Before all games this year, we've done a 3-key segment. That's not going to change tonight. Of course, we're doing it for the Cheez-It Bowl as well. So let's head off with our first key here. WSU is going to have to deal with a extremely difficult triple option offense with the Air Force. This Air Force offense, or triple option offense, is number 3 in the country in rushing yards, averaging 293 yards per game. And they've done this without a single player in the top 50 in the country for rushing yards individually. This is an offense that's going to grind it out against you. But here's the key. WSU can't get lulled into Air Force's rushing attack because the Falcons can make the Cougs pay through the air. Now, we have to remember Air Force doesn't throw the ball that much, but they do have the most efficient passing offense in the country. Their quarterback, DJ Hammond, is averaging 13 yards per pass this season. Hammond is throwing for big gains and big gains only. This is not great for the Cougars, as explosive plays have been a huge problem for them this season, the majority of which have been passing plays. Another key for WSU is that they are going to have to match Air Force's discipline tonight. I know, crazy to think about. A military team, very disciplined. So anyways, I know that's a crazy thing. Sorry, somebody almost just walked into our shot there. So Air Force is number 1 in the country for averaging the fewest amount of penalties this season. They've only been penalized 40 times this year, which pencils out to 3.33 penalties per game. They're also extremely disciplined in their offense. They're 2nd in the country in 3rd down conversion percentage at 55% and 6th in the country in 4th down conversion percentage at 72%. As I said before, this team grinds their way down the field for the majority of the game, but boy, are they successful at it. On defense, they're pretty disciplined in the red zone. They're 17th in the country in red zone defense, only allowing their opponents to score once they get within Air Force's 20, 74% of the time. Basically, to sum it up, WSU is going to have to go toe-to-toe with Air Force's discipline if they want to win this game. Air Force and WSU only have one common opponent this year, and that opponent is Colorado. So we're going to look towards that game for our final key in this matchup. All those stats I just rattled off about Air Force, well, it was almost identical to how Air Force performed against Colorado. They defeated Colorado 30-23 in overtime. Air Force is averaging 293 rushing yards per game. They had 284 against Colorado. They went 58% on 3rd down. They're averaging 55% on 3rd down this season. They had 4 penalties in that game. They're averaging 3.33 per game this year. DJ Hammond averaged 12.9 yards per pass in that contest. He's averaging 13 yards per pass this season. Basically, the Falcons can definitely hang with an average Pac-12 team. That's what the Cougs have been this year. 2 things that I want to point out here. Colorado let Hammond pass for nearly 50 more yards than his average. That is a big deal in an offense that mostly runs. Seems like a pretty big key there. The other thing I want to point out is that Colorado was down by 13 points with 6.5 minutes to go and came back to force overtime. The only reason why the Buffs didn't win in regulation was that they had a PAT block. WSU's offense is way more explosive than Colorado's. This is a defense WSU can definitely come back against, so keep that in mind if the Cougs are trailing in the 4th. Air Force and Washington State kick off at 7:15 Pacific time on ESPN. We have a whole bunch of web extras coming your way shortly. If you didn't catch our live interview with Ryan Leaf in the 5 o'clock, that will be on our website shortly. I also just chatted with Hunter Pat McAfee. If you're on Twitter, you know Pat. He's amazing. He's at this game. So we had to chat with him a little bit about Blake Mazza and a few other WSU topics. We also, of course, will be live from this game at 11 o'clock once it's over. Reporting in Phoenix, I'm Brenna Green, from 2 Sports.
Brenna has us covered every angle. Thanks so much. Well, let's look ahead to new laws coming in 2020. Washington will raise the smoking age to 21 come January 1st. The law is aimed toward decreasing the amount of teens who vape and use tobacco products.
So according to the bill, the first county in the country to do this saw a 50% reduction in tobacco use among teens after it passed. Senators hope that decreasing the amount of legal buyers in and around high schools will decrease the number of high school age smokers.
Meanwhile, also starting in January 1st, dogs can be judged on their behavior rather than just their breed when it comes to finding a place to live. If owners put their dog through the American Kennel Club's Canine Good Citizen program, they'll be exempt from breed bans in Washington.
Yeah, breed bans often target larger, muscular breeds like pit bulls and Rottweilers, but a new bill in the House requires jurisdictions to focus on a dog's behavior rather than just their breed. Breed bans can still be enforced, but not for dogs who pass this test.
Meanwhile, in Oregon, the practice known as an Idaho stop will be illegal. Starting January 1st, Oregon bicyclists will not be required to come to a complete stop at a stop sign, as long as they yield to the right-of-way of traffic. The Idaho stop was actually coined after the state that first allowed cyclists to roll through stop signs in 1982.